Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today's video is a video on, it'll be a demonstration video whereby I do a reading for myself. So it's an actual question, and it's not a fake question. But it will be a demonstration video for some of you who are interested in seeing how another person interprets the cards, or if you want to learn. And, you know, maybe something I say might be helpful to you in that process. In case you are new to me, and I think probably from time to time it's important to touch base, which I don't do enough of. I try to respond to everyone who comments. So I try to have, you know, a relationship with my subscribers. And I know many of you by name, you know, but you know, some of what I say may be helpful in learning, you know, how to interpret the cards. And if anything I ever say is helpful to you, take it and use it, you know. Okay, so today's reading, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. My husband and I settled on this home. Our closing date was December 30th of last year. So we owned the home. We bought the home a few days after Christmas and before the new year. And we didn't move in until January 6th. So needless to say, Christmas of last year was kind of a bust for us. We didn't bother with a tree because our former home was wall-to-wall boxes. I packed myself. We both, you know, we packed ourselves. We had other people move for us, but we did the packing. So, you know, our house was wall-to-wall boxes, and it was a mess, you know. And we could have, you know, immediately moved here so that we could have brought the new year in the new house. But it just seemed like, you know, we weren't able to get help. Of course, who wants to move a person on New Year's Eve? Nobody, you know. So we just figured after the new year, when everyone is happy and everybody is over their hangovers, we'll get people to help us move into this house, which is what we did. But we didn't have Christmas here, and we didn't have the New Year here, and we just had those holidays kind of like, you know, looking over boxes going, hey, Happy New Year. You know, it was kind of a mess. So anyway, and then we moved in, and I never, you know, I did sage the house, although nobody, as far as we know, has ever died in this property. There could have been something happening on the land, because this land that the neighborhood is on was untouched land until these homes were put here, unfortunately. So there could have been something that was here for, you know, a few thousand years before we got here. But as far as we know, there's not been anybody. We had a couple incidences, but there has not been anybody who died in this home. But I did sage the house. But I never did a tarot reading on it, you know, like, would we be happy here? Or is this the house of our dreams? Which would have been something I should have done probably before we bought the house. But it was it was a kind of an impulse buy. You know, it was a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. And I looked at my husband and I said, you know, we're probably outgrowing this house. You know, there's only two of us. But, you know, there was like 2,200 square feet. So I guess it was a decent sized house. But, you know, we came to each other late in life. So we didn't have accumulated objects that we brought together. You know, we have my stuff and we have his stuff. And we both have, you know, if we had been married or together forever, our junk would be mutual, you know. But we have like two separate groups of people's junk, you know, because I met my husband later in life, and I was 54 when we got married. So, you know, I had 54 years of stuff that I had, and he had 60 some years of stuff that he had. So we had a lot of stuff, and we were just outgrowing that old house. And I no sooner said that, and I said it like it was the week, right? It was Thanksgiving week. It was like maybe Sunday or Monday before Thanksgiving. By Thanksgiving, by the day before Thanksgiving, we had a bid on a house, And I think we like found out we owned it. Like they accepted our bid by Thanksgiving. It was like the day after Thanksgiving or whatever. We owned the house, you know. Well, we owned they accepted our bid. We didn't own the house until a little bit later. So it happened like really, really fast, you know. We just didn't expect, you know. And then we didn't sell the other house. We kept 2 mortgages because we wanted to get this house. And we were motivated to get this house, so we wanted to look like desirable buyers. So we bought it without having to sell the other house. So we got it saying like, we're not depending on the sale of our house to get this house. We can buy this house without that happening. So that made us, I guess, more desirable. But it put us in a pinch, you know. It put us in a pinch because we were paying for 2 mortgages, plus we were putting a down payment on, a rather large down payment on a house, you know. But at any rate, it all happened so fast, and we just like moved in and tried to get life in order. And then my husband went to Germany, and then life happens, and you forget. And I never sat down with the cards and asked them about like our future in this house, or I mean, we've been here now almost a year. December 30th will be a year since we owned it. January 6th will be the first day we ever slept in the house. So it's coming up to a year. And, we're real happy. We're real happy here. I mean, this is the house of our dreams. You know, we both concede that we'll probably die here. We'll be the ones who want this house. I will definitely haunt this house. I got news for whoever buys this house or gets this house after I'm gone. I'm haunting this place because it's a happy place. We've been very happy here, and it's a great house. And at any rate, I want to see what the cards have to say about this house. I mean, did I read the room right? You know, is this a great place for us? And what kind of joys can we expect for the remaining years that we have in this wonderful place? So let me flip the camera, go into my meditative place, and do all that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so going into the reading, going into my meditative state, I indicated that I was going to be doing my signature spread, the one I do when people say read my cards and they don't know what they want. I do this spread. And I've discussed it many times at length, and I will discuss it here too. That's my signature spread, which is 3 cards across. So we have a 5 of coins. We have the star, death. Well, like I said, we'll be the ones who haunt this place. No question about it. Okay, 8 of batons. The Knight of Swords. Judgment. So we have Death and Judgment as end cards. We have the Star card. We have the Queen of Swords. The Knight of Coin. 2 knights, one on top of the other. That's interesting. And we have the 7 or 8, the 8 of Swords. Now I'll do the quintessential, which is I add them up. And if it's a number totaling between 1 and 21, I place the corresponding card. If it's a total greater than 22, I subtract 22 until I get a number from 1 to 21. So I can account for the Fool being having no number. All right, so let me go off camera and do all that. Okay, so I've laid the quintessential cards. I want to point something out. The quintessential number for the first 2 rows is number 5, which would be the male Pope, the Pope. Now I only have 1 Pope card in the deck, and I could have pulled another Pope card from another deck to use. But in this particular deck, the Mitelli is a little bit of an anomaly. It's a little bit of a different kind of deck, whereby number card 2 and number card 5, and I'm not sure which one of these is number 2 and which one of these is number 5 because they're not numbered. But the number 2 position and the number 5 position are both males of the high rank of a high-ranking clerical, set. So they're both essentially popes. They might have said one is an Eastern Pope and one is a Western Pope or something like that. So they differentiate them according to perhaps locale or something like that. But one is not a female energy and one is not they're not different in that way. So I'm just picking the number 2 card and the number 5 card with the understanding that they're both representing the number 5 card, which is the Pope. And then this row down here is Justice. Was the quintessential for that row was Justice. And then the final quint card for the whole read is the Magician. Now, like I said, there's a few different kind of images for this particular deck. And for those of you who are becoming enchanted by this deck, I have a playlist. This will be the number 12 video that I'm doing on the Mitelli. So I have a Mitelli playlist now with, this will be the 12th video on the deck. So check it out. On some of the videos, I compare different Mitelli decks done by different publishers. I discuss this one at length. I discuss the history at length. So if you want to learn more and see more images of the Mitelli, I'll link the Mitelli playlist down below. And like I said, it has 12 videos in it, 11 other than this one. But at any rate, I go off on that tangent because here's the Magician. Now, the Magician is not what we are accustomed to seeing with a table and somebody doing sleight of hand tricks, right? This one is kind of like a Pied Piper. We have a youth, not a man, older than these kids, but not an adult. I don't think he is. And he's kind of like the Pied Piper, and he's got a little following. He's entertaining children, He's kind of got a hat with a bell. It looks, could that be a bell? I don't know. Maybe not. It's got a tassel. But this is the card that represents the Magician. So there's no sleight of hand unless he's conning them and being like a Pied Piper kind of person. There might be some deception. You might read deception in that interpretation, like you might read it in, the Magician on the table with his ball and dice or whatever. So there could be a sinister aspect to this card if you see it as a Pied Piper trying to get kids to follow, or it could be very innocent whereby he's just entertaining children. So you have to decide for yourself how you see this card or how you see it in the context of a general read. Okay, so we begin the row with we begin the spread with the top row. I did not designate what each row meant or anything like that. I just let the cards speak to me and tell their story as I see it, right? So we start out with a card of instability, of well-being, right? The suit of coins is, a suit of, I see it as well-being. 5 being a number of instability. So when we got this house, there was a bit of instability there. So that's very accurate, We didn't have the benefit of selling the house before we bought this house, and then we had to put our everything we had into this house in order to have money, because we couldn't put the sale of the other house in it, right? So there was it was a big drain. It was a big drain for us to buy this house. So we did it like kind of on a leap of faith, and we didn't know how it was going to work out, So this being an unstable card of well-being is very, very accurate. And I do want to mention that this beautiful deck that I'm using is a Mitelli, but it was created for me by Shel David of East Tarot. We have been friends, and in our conversation a year or two ago, he learned that my favorite deck was the Mitelli, but I couldn't use it because it's missing cards 2 through 5. Because it was created as a tarocchino deck. Any word in Italian that has ino at the end signifies that it's abbreviated or diminutive, right? So a tarocchino deck is a deck whereby certain cards are missing because it's to be, certain card games are to be played. Card games that don't have 2 to 5. So this is one of the cards that Shel would have recreated. And I do know for a fact that the center card, he made an homage to Il Meneghello, the maestro over at Il Meneghello. So that's the image of Maestro there. But at any rate, I just got off on that tangent a little bit. So anyway, Shel David created cards 2 through 5 for me so that I could use the deck for divinatory purposes. I have other decks. I have this one. I have one by Lo Scarabeo, but they are missing cards 2 through 5, so I can't use them for divinatory purposes. So anyway, there's that. The second card may look like the Hermit, but it is the Star card. Remember, this deck was created in 1660, so it's old Italian. I mean, okay, tarot had been invented 200 years earlier in Italy, but Italy is the one that had the tradition. And remember, even the Noble, or whichever deck now is the earliest deck over in France, the earliest TDM deck, and by 1660, that was a new deck. Right, so this deck, even though even though tarot had been in Italy for 200 years, this deck was still a brand new deck to those folks over in France. And I am convinced that at some point they saw this card, thinking it was not recognizing it as the Star card, and they used it as the Hermit card, because there was a card called the Old One, or I think it was called the Old One, something like that. And I think they mistook, when the French were making their TDM, I think they mistook this card for the Hermit, and they made that one the Hermit, and then they had to come up with a new Star card, so that's when they came up with the Constellation for Aquarius card. But at any rate, this card in this deck is the Star card. So we have long term, right? When I think of the star, I think, of eternity. I think of wishing on a star, like dreams coming true. So we have challenge going in, but kind of like our dream house, our dream place. Okay. Now, I'm not going to be discouraged to see the Death card, because we're both older and we both, kind of recognize that, we're not leaving here unless we're taken out, So one of us, unfortunately may pass here, or maybe we both will. But to me, that suggests, that we have found our dream home, and that's a good thing. And we're happy, we're happy that we're here. And like I said, I plan on haunting this place, so that's okay with me. All right, now the quintessential card for that row, is the Pope. But again, like the Pope represents longevity, because, how often does the church change anything or adjust to, anybody besides their own agenda, right? It doesn't happen very often. So, and I think of this, I think of long term, I think of being set in our ways. This is our house of our dreams, and this is like we're set in our ways, and this is where we're going to be set in our ways. We're happy here. Okay, the next row of cards we have, I think that's an 8. Okay, we have the 8 of batons. Now it's a little different from like 8, cudgels, or 8, batons. We have a little bit of an illustration here, which we don't see all that often in the, pip style cards. And we have an individual warming themselves by a fire under a hanging thing, under a bow, right? Now, I'm sure this had a reference that if we were, an audience of the 1600s, we'd know exactly what that was referencing. It could be referencing an Aesop's fable. It could be referencing a poem or a part of a poem. Like they might have recognized that as like a scene in who knows what, But I no longer know what it is. I can only say that it's an individual who's warming themselves by the fire. And their lives are like nicely wrapped up in a nice bow, right? We have a beautiful fireplace, I can see myself like just sitting here in front of the fire, for feeling like, I got a present, which I feel like this house has been a great gift for us. So far, so good. Okay, some disruption or some news, and then something being brought to us. I see the Judgment card in the form of an angel in the Mitelli deck. There are no individuals. There's no reference to the Last Judgment. This is more of a announcement or things being made clear. So we have, I think, a certain amount of contentment. If I see clubs as a social suit, you know, having family by the fire, although that's only one person, but the idea of being home, right? Some disruption. Well, okay, there may be some disruption. You know, what household doesn't have disruption at some point? We'll have to see. But things being made clear. And that's followed by another Pope card, which was, again, the quintessential card for a second row. So at some point in our lives, we will have some kind of disruption here, but things will be made clear. Or sometimes, you know, things get messy before you see the light or before you see the truth. And the final row of cards we have the Queen of Swords. We have the Knight of Coin. And we have, is that 8? 8 swords. So we have 2. No, we just have 1 8. I was thinking for a second that was Justice. And we have Justice here. So this, you know, because this is the only number, the numeric value in this row, I chose the Justice card, which is 8. So, you know, Justice is doing double, the number 8 is doing double duty in this row. So 8 is stability, contentment, things being the way they should be. People come and go. I have 2 sons and a daughter, you know. I have son-in-laws, I have daughter-in-laws. So there's a lot of people here, you know, and we have a lot of family time. We watch the children, that kind of thing. And then the final card is the Magician card. So I am the babysitter of the children, you know. So I'm seeing this as the place where the kids come. And will be taking over babysitting duty for when my daughter-in-law goes back to work with her and her newborn. You know, we've committed to watching him, but we watched the other baby, my son's, you know, her and my son's baby, the first child, and we did that for I guess until she was about 1.5 years. So we expect to do that here, plus have the other children here as well. So yeah, in a sense, I'm the Pied Piper, because I think this card represents that it's all about family and it's about the children. And there's nothing sinister in this card, because I'm not sinister. I'm a good person and I love my grandbabies. I live for my grandbabies, you know. So I see this house, and it seems as though the cards are reinforcing the idea that this is a family place, great for having the babies and having the kids, and, you know, long term. And, you know, we're set in our ways, and this is how we're doing it. And, you know, most people at our age, when they buy houses, they downsize to make life a little easier. And we went for the brass ring. We just said, let's go for it. Let's go for, you know, the grandest house we never thought we could ever have. And we did it, you know. And it's a struggle. We still sometimes struggle a little bit, but it's been worth everything, you know. And I think these cards bear that out, that, you know, it's a good vibe kind of place, you know, happy feelings kind of place. We're in it for the long haul. We'll definitely be the people that haunt this house, and there's no problem with that, because we both knew that going in. And yeah, I guess this card, this interpretation kind of reads as I expected it would, and I'm happy to see the way it is being played out. And I hope this has been insightful and helpful to you. And if you ever use the signature spread, please give credit to me for using it. It is my signature spread. I did develop it. Not the 3 rows of 3. Anybody can do that. Anybody's been doing that since time immemorial. But I do add these additional cards. And as a tip for reading this, if you ever want to borrow it and use it, or, you know, if you do discuss it elsewhere, please give me credit, as I mentioned. But a lot of times I'll just read these 4 cards to cut to the chase, to see what the reading is really about, because each of these cards, each of these rows work toward that. So when I interpret these cards, it has to make sense to bring me to this point. So it's not as simplistic as it looks. And I see like shaky well-being going into the house, which is what our circumstances were when we purchased the house. But these two cards of longevity, of being here in our twilight years and our older years, and maybe dying here, right? And then this being a card of longevity too, because if you think of the church, it never changes, So it's 3 cards in a row of longevity. Now here we have, somebody sitting by the fire, with a nice big bow wrapped, wrapping it all up. So it's a comfort place, some action, some activity, but things, coming in, things being, you know what? I think the way I see this is that I think some news will come to us when we live in this house. Maybe it has not happened yet, but I see the Knight of Swords, which means action, which could mean messages. And then we see the Angel card, which in this particular deck is about message, right? It's about an announcement, So I guess I could see this as getting news, some type of news when we live here. I don't think it's bad news because this card here is a happy card. I see it as a happy card. But seeing news being delivered while we live here. And again, we have an end cap of the Pope. So I'm not really getting any kind of clues about what kind of news that might be. It could be, I don't know. That remains to be seen. And then the final row, we have more people. And the people can also represent just people in our lives, right? Just the people that come and go in our lives. I have 2 sons and I have a daughter. I have a daughter-in-law. I have 2 daughter-in-laws and I have a son-in-law. So there's lots of people in my life. I think this was the 8 of Swords, which is a high level number of the Swords suit. Swords can mean action. Swords can mean violence, but I see nothing here suggesting any kind of violence or anything like that. And 8 is a stable number, like, going into, living the rest of your life in a pretty stable way. Maybe still having some excitement, because the Suit of Swords, I think, is still pretty exciting, but keeping it to a manageable way for older people, Where my husband is a lot more adventurous than I am. I guess I'm older than him as far as maturity goes, and I don't mean maturity that I'm more mature than him. I mean, as far as being like an old person goes, because he'll still go see the world. He'll go off and do things, and he's in great shape and he can do those things. But I'm limited. The past several times that we've traveled extensively, it was really hard on me, which is probably why I'm like unable to walk at the moment, So I think we have to cap our enthusiasm for life a little bit, or I'm a wet damper for him. He can do things independently. I don't have any problem with him doing things independently. But it seems like, 8 being stable and then Swords being very exciting. So bringing some stability to how much activity we can really do. So I think this is the house for us because, this is our vacation home. This is where we come. This is where we have come to not have to go on vacation anymore. This is like a vacation home. This is the kind of house, that I've always felt like this is the kind of house you get when you're on vacation because you're like, wow, what a great house, And that's how I feel here. And so I feel like I'm on vacation every single day here. So life, life is as it should be. And it's all about the kids and watching the kids and having fun with the kids and, family, all the people who show up in this spread and for the long term. And I hope that it has been insightful to you to see a demonstration reading. And until next time, friends, peace and stay well.